All right, hello, what's going on? Welcome to Race Brain Podcast. My name is Rich Ryan, joined as always by Bracken Crocker and Jack Bauer. Today we're going to just rank stuff. We got a little bit of downtime. We're just going to rank things because that's what we want to do. We're going to update our list of all-timers for the OCR rankings and then talk about, put in order the most important rankings for OCR championships. So we have 35 different championships that we have to sort through. So it's going to be a long episode. Yeah. BK is just hanging in the balance. He's been looking forward to and also dreading this episode all year. BK, how do you feel about your prospects about moving up this list?
I think I have just gotten to the point of moving goalposts. Like what top 10 used to sound good, top 17 used to sound good. Now it's probably like top 20, top 25.
Oh, pretty good.
I just have to keep moving that standard.
Got to keep your standards lowish.
Here's the real problem is that I overwhelmingly don't belong on these lists, and I overwhelmingly need to be on this list. And it's, these are the two wolves fighting inside me, like the realist and the one that says I'm the best there ever's been. Like if I'm not on the list, I'm quitting.
Bracken, where was peak you? Where would you have pick any slice of time in history? Where was your highest moment? Like, do you think you would have been 3 at some
May
point?
of 2015.
How would you have done in this year's?
Peak me was May 2015. Peak ranking would have been 2013.
Okay. Like after Killington, you end up getting 3rd and not 1, but 2 world championships. The only 2 guys ahead of you at that point are Hobie and Cody, right? And then
and the next year I won the super championship and took 2nd at the sprint championship. And at that race, Robert Coble introduced me to Johnny Hendricks, who was the UFC welterweight champ at the time, prepping for his fight with Carlos Condit at the time. But he introduced me as the 2nd best guy in the world. And I think he was off by 1 spot, but I'll never forget that moment. I think I was probably like 3rd or 4th. But anyway, that year, 2013, fall 2013, right before Worlds, people still thought I was really good, and I hadn't yet proved that I wasn't.
Was that UFC fighter very impressed?
He was just like a good old Texas boy. He was sitting down on a log drinking a Budweiser, talking about how he had separated his shoulder on the monkey bars. I said, "Is it going to be fine to fight?" And he just looks at me like kind of glazed drunk and goes, "Oh yeah, I'll throw it." Like, all right. Yeah. You're not here to think, you're here to fight.
This is an important distinction because of where OCR came from and where it is now. There's definitely a peak. We're past that peak. And now we're, we talk about a lot, the athletes are still solid, but the volume of good athletes is less, mostly because North America is not really in the picture. Where do you finish in like Worlds? If you were May 2013, and if you just take that person and plop them into Abu Dhabi this year?
Somewhere in the top 20.
Oh,
no, better than that.
Come on, dude.
I mean, you can't get better than top 20. That encompasses
encompasses
1 through 20. I don't know. That the person in May 2015 is top 10 in any generation.
Croatia sprint. How about that? I feel like that would have been.
Can you swim?
Event for you.
I'm a strong swimmer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Got that.
I honestly, these are the things that are really hard to tell because the top always looks great. Like Basilico, maybe the best terrain runner we've seen, but like, does he worry Cody? Does he worry Hobie? He's always a double sandbag carry or a rig away from losing. Like, is that any different than any generation at the top? I think the biggest difference we see now is from like 3rd through 12th, all could be 3rd. And in the past, they couldn't be. I still think like 12 through 20, they're not contenders and never were at a world level. But like 3 through 12, all could be 3rd. And in the past, I don't think we could really say that. So I don't think the top's better because we had freak athletes from the beginning. I think the middle is way better than it ever was.
Jack, agreed?
100%. Yeah. I mean, we saw that with like San Luis Obispo and Blue Mountain during that 2022 season where you just had we were like, is this person going to get 3rd? Or are they going to get 15th? And that's basically exactly what Bracken just said.
But there was always like 5 and then a big drop off. Now there's 1 or 2 a little drop off, and then they're all the same for the next 10.
Nailed it. Seems like something good to debate about, like where they rank all time or something.
So let's go ahead and pop that in. Jack just crushing transitions, bruh. Let's start on the women's side. So what we do every year, we have a running list of the top OCR athletes of all time. It's definitive. You cannot really argue once it's set on this doc that is called Vlog 1, not even OCR stuff. I don't even know why it's called that. It's been called this for years. But we are looking at this list. We have about 18 women on the list and 20 men. So let's go ahead and start on the women's side. And this is taking in totality. We are not talking about our Power 11 rankings. Things don't really shift around with what we do need to talk about the year that happened and how that shifts or where people kind of move from their past results versus what happened this season. On the women's side, the GOAT, Lindsay Webster. No movement. Did Zuzana do enough to overtake Lindsay?
Do enough? I don't think there's a human alive who has done enough to overtake Lindsay's career.
No, she's been gone. What? How many months have we not seen her in?
And when she was pregnant?
10?
Yeah.
That's still a smaller gap than we've lost Zuzana for at multiple times throughout her career.
Nicole was out for like multiple years with her knee injury.
Yeah.
And you can't take away from what Lindsay has done. Just like on the men's side, Hobie, he hasn't raced for many years. Albin kind of only raced one time in the past few years. That just because you can't use recency bias against them.
Lindsay is going to be very hard to ever remove off this. I think Nicole Miracle is the only one that ever could, in theory, because Lindsay started almost at the beginning and beat pretty much everyone. And then she continued all the way to present time and beat pretty much everyone. So not only does she have the most like stats that can't get caught ever, she's also beat everyone who's on this list. So it would take someone in the future to go on a run better than hers, but that doesn't happen as sports grow. So Nicole's the only candidate to even do this. And I don't think she can catch her. Unless she goes like 5 more years winning everything.
Right. And then we do need to talk about how the sport has changed and evolved, right? Like where the peak, it's hard to, and this is what happens in regular debate shows, to compare generations, but it's just going to be really hard for us from a subjective standpoint to be like, oh, because she's winning OCR world championships, that's going to move her up. So
yeah,
I agree with you, Bracken. It's going to be a hard case for anybody on this list for a long time.
Well, and here's what we know. Like Nicole now is the barometer for the sport. In Lindsay, when she left, was definitively ahead of Nicole. So if the current generation really isn't getting the better of Nicole on a consistent basis, yeah, they've beat her a few times this year, but she was probably the best this year. If no one surpassed her, then you can't surpass Lindsay. And as long as Nicole's here, it kind of cements the fact that Lindsay will be the best ever. Someone has to definitively beat Nicole consistently.
Lindsay and Nicole have faced each other 35 times in their career. What do you think the head-to-head record is? So we have a lot of data right here. And in my opinion, head-to-head, they face each other in OCR Worlds, Spartan Race, National Series, elevation, not elevation, everything. Sprint to
27 and 8.
I was going to say 28 and 7.
24 and 11. So
24 and 11, okay.
Lindsay has won more than 2 out of 3 events against Nicole consistently through the years. If you look at their all-time titles, Lindsay, we're looking at major races, whether it's FISO, OCR Worlds, Spartan World Championship, World's Toughest Mudder. Lindsay has 14 wins and Nicole has 10. But if we're looking at podiums, Lindsay has 22, Nicole has 17. So technically there's a way for her to catch up to her. But I think even if she does surpass her, it'll solely because of longevity rather than being a better racer. Because if you look at that head-to-head, Lindsay most of the time got the better of her. So I think it's virtually impossible for her to pass her.
Yeah, and it's usually the opposite, right? The OGs have the titles and the new wave has the better record against the OG as the OG gets old. But unless Lindsay comes back and isn't herself and starts tarnishing her win-loss record, she's always going to have that trump card over both of us in our prime. I was better.
Yeah.
So where things start to get interesting is this next spot, 2-3. We have Zuzana Kokomova as the second best. She's a two-time Spartan World champion, I believe, which carries the most water in this argument, especially back when she was doing it. And Nicole Miracle, we have two asterisks next to her name with the title of needing one more year to see. I think last year we had a debate of, is Nicole 2 or is it Zuzana? And it was after Nicole coming back from injury, didn't have a spectacular season in 2023, but she was fully back this year. And what do we think? Did she do enough to cement herself as the number 2 of all time? Because if this happens, we're looking at a pretty similar scenario as someone trying to overtake Lindsay at 1, trying to take Nicole at 2. It's a long, steep climb for anyone behind her on this list.
Yeah, just look at the last 2 races. Zuzana versus Nicole came down to a rig in Abu Dhabi and in Croatia. Nicole got the better of her both times. And if we look at their lifetime head-to-head record, who do you think has the better? They're one of them 6-7 against the other.
Oh, wow.
7-6. So it's very, very close. Who do you think has the edge?
Nicole probably.
Because of this year. Now on the other side, it's like she's beating Zuzana, who's in her mid-40s at this point. Right. So exactly. Peak versus not peak.
This is very difficult because they're not this. Lindsay and Nicole are more cut and dry. They're too close in age to like really say they're different generations. But Zuzana's clearly like towards the very end of her career. However, I would just look at it and say, when they're both at their best, Zuzana's hope of beating Nicole is big carries. Whereas Nicole's hope of beating Zuzana is pretty much everything other than big carries and maybe big descents. And so if in a one-on-one at their best, we'd vote Nicole, and now finally her body of work is definitively better, I think she goes ahead of her. It punishes Zuzana for not being young right now, but to my logic, it makes sense.
Yeah, so Zuzana's only missed the podium 2 times in her Spartan race career. So that only happened after the age of 40. She was virtually unbeatable. She has more Spartan race world titles than Nicole. Although actually after the sprint now they're tied. But Zuzana hasn't done too well outside of Spartan. She did win the European OCR championship in 2015, the first year that they had that, and 2016 she ended up getting second, but she has a DNF at the European championships before. She's consistently finished 4th, 5th, 6th, 16th at various non-Spartan races against the best in Europe, while Nicole has just, doesn't matter the format, she's going to do well. So I think due to her versatility, I would go with Nicole regardless of the head-to-head record, which she also happens to have the lead on.
And I think we underrate how good Zuzana was, but I think we overrate what all her European championships are worth. And currently, European championships are worth so much more than North American. But I don't know if the whole world truly grasps how good the Spartan National Series was for like 5 or 6 straight years when Nicole and Lindsay were just head and shoulders above the field. The rest of the field right now could step into the current women's sport and all go top 10 at every race. And you couldn't say that about the past generation of the people that Zuzana was beat. You're talking like plumbers, right? That's kind of who were most of the field for the women's European championships and those local races where she went undefeated for years. Her strength of schedule was nowhere near what Nicole is facing over in North America.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like if we did blind resume and we just start adding up world championships and just like podiums, Nicole has to have the edge, right? Jack, if you were to do something like that.
Yeah. And if you're like, and if you're Nicole's number 2 in all-time major race world championship podiums, all brands, and wins as well. But yeah, if you're number 3 on the list and you beat the person number 2 twice this year head to head, and you added a Spartan race short course world championship plus OCR world championships as well, like all in the same year, how can't you move up at that point?
Yeah. All I want to say in their defense is that Zuzana and John Albin will forever be unrealized in how great they were because they didn't compete in the biggest circuit. It's like
Mhm.
Fedor over in Pride all those years and wherever else he fought. He was considered maybe the greatest ever, but no one really knew because you didn't know who he was fighting.
Mm.
And that's kind of Albin showed up and took care of business and everything except double carries or altitude. She showed up and took care of business whenever she was asked to. She just didn't show up to the biggest series because it wasn't like convenient or
Right.
useful or even logical to go to. So they're both going to be punished for where they live. And both of those two could be the greatest ever if they had just been competing full time in North America. And it might not be close. Or we just wouldn't know. But she still has to move down.
Yes. So Nicole moves up to the second spot of all time. Big moves on its very important ranking system. Zuzana is going to stay pretty solid at 3. I feel that there's a tier there. So our Mount Rushmore spot now.
This is a big debate. This final Mount
This is a
Rushmore
hurtful
spot.
conversation coming up for me.
Do you think so? I mean, right now we have
Yeah.
Amelia Boone as the 4th, Esther Hotabagiova in 5th, Chris Rogloski in 6th. We have asterisks next to her as well because we debated this last year. Should she be higher? Between Esther and Chris, I don't believe either of them did anything this season
No.
that would move them past Amelia.
No. But someone else did.
But I don't think that Amelia should be number 4.
She was already debatable in 4, but only because other people had more to prove. And I think someone did this year.
Really? You want to take
Alyssa
someone
Petrova.
from 11?
Yeah.
I think
She was underrated.
highly undervalued her
Mount
last time.
Rushmore.
Yeah. Her
Well, the
resume
whole concept
is
of Mount
impressive.
Rushmore is flawed.
No, 4 heads.
Yeah, but if we just
Are they
said
the
4th
4
all
best?
time, we'd say, yeah, probably. Because she has a better resume than all these women now.
Read it off. Let's hear it. Okay, so now our debate is Alyssa Petrova, who we currently have in 11th, had a spectacular year at the top of the Power 11 rankings, also a very important ranking. And we want to see if what she did in this year, 2024, if that was enough.
She
for
shouldn't
her
have been
to
11
pass.
before.
She
I think
spanked
that's
1,
the issue.
2, 3, 5, 7, 9.
What do you
She
saying?
spanked them all this year. Our all-time rankings.
This is not a power ranking. This is
I know.
all time.
If
Alyssa
it was a power
Petrova,
ranking, she'd be up there. And you add now how many titles she has. If we count Alula as a world title, which I believe we should,
No way.
it's
not
worth
even-
more than
no
half the world
way.
titles that they had this year.
Not even counting
Can't count that as a world title. It's like
not even counting that she has the third most world podiums ahead of Ida. Even only Lindsay and Nicole are ahead of her. So Alyssa has 4 Spartan Race World Champion podiums. She has some FISO, and if we're looking at the let me just find this. I had it prepared right before. If we're looking at her
And
average,
this is happening in the era of Nicole and Lindsay. And she's already surpassed all these people's world podium streaks or numbers.
if we look at her average place in major races ever, and she's run a lot of them. I know she hasn't had the opportunity in North America to run back at Tahoe because of visa issues, but her average place at OCR Worlds, FISO, European Championships, Spartan Race, all the major continental or world championships, it's 4.4. She's ahead of Zuzana. She's ahead of Chris. She's ahead of Amelia. The only athletes really ahead of her are Lindsay, Esther, Emma, Nicole, Miriam, and Rebecca Hammond. And Alyssa has had a fantastic year, 4 straight world championship podiums. I think that's more Spartan Race World Championships than Amelia had for a podium.
Yeah, but Amelia has 2 world's toughest world championships. You can't.
What years?
Still, it
No,
was
no,
early,
I'm leading to a point here. What years was Amelia a world champ?
Like
Was it
12
13,
and
12, 13, 13,
maybe,
14?
or 14. She got
She
hurt
only
one of those.
had at the top. And now I'm an Amelia stan. All right. But from the sport perspective, she had a 3-year run.
Yeah.
Count it maybe 4. So in her 4 years, she accomplished world's toughest and Spartan race. And in just the last, if we take the best 4 years, let's call it 3 of Alyssa's, Alyssa matches her. Or exceeds her.
Amelia basically, Lake Tahoe, she got 4th in 2015, and then that was kind of it. And she came on the scene, World Stuff with Butter, getting 2nd in 2011. So she really had a 4-year run, roughly.
she benefits greatly from her, like the shadow she casts over the sport. She's part of the legacy. She like, you can't tell the history of the sport without her. She's a
Right.
first ballot Hall of Famer, but she actually burned brightly and burned briefly. And I think we forget that because it felt like forever in the moment. She was an entire era. The era just wasn't very long. By the time Lindsay, Nicole, all these people came on, she was already kind of done because of injury.
Yeah,
Never really came back to prominence.
The Fab Five for the women really started in 2015, and that was kind of the end of the Amelia era. So Nicole, Rhea, Alyssa, Lindsay, they were all getting their growing pains out of the way at that point, like early on. No offense to Amelia. She did win 3 World's Toughest Champions, 12, 14, and 15. I see right there.
Yeah, but once the current goats of Ultra came onto the scene, she never beat them. And Alyssa just spanked them all in an Ultra. So I think it does. I think this is closer than people would realize. So let's just go let's do stats, Jack. World championships, world podiums, that kind of thing.
Let's just do world championships to start.
Okay, like just straight up wins.
Straight up wins.
Amelia Boone, 3 World's Toughest Mudder, 1 Spartan race. If we're not including the Ultra,
she won a Spartan race one. She has 4 world titles.
Yeah,
and we're out which are
we're out talking about Alula counting as the same.
Not counting Alula. We have Alyssa ended up winning Spartan Race Beast World Championship this year, and she won a FISO World Championship this year as well. If we're looking at
even if we count multiple world championships within 1 year, that's still half as many.
That's wins. I get it. But Alyssa, the only 2 athletes that she was really losing to in Abu Dhabi, it was like Lindsay. And she did get beat by Annie one of those years.
Who was
but
16.
was Amelia Boone going to get
you mentioned
third?
Becca Hammond. You mentioned Emma
would Amelia
in front of her other things.
But would Amelia
can't compare generations?
But Alyssa has the 3rd most podiums.
This is a good year. Like you're acting like this is like the gold standard of OCR.
But a couple
just because it's later doesn't mean it's better.
A couple weeks ago, we were saying like look at who's in the field now. You have a really deep. You have Nicole, Zuzana, Ulrika is on the scene. Esther's still competing.
If Lindsay was competing this year, Alyssa would have 0 world championships.
We don't know that.
Come on, you'd bet it.
She beat Nicole by like 10 minutes.
She took it to Nicole, and that's the closest stat we have. I'm happy saying we put her at 5 and give her the 2 asterisks and say she needs another year, but it's at least closer than you're giving it credit.
No worse than 5.
You have recency bias like crazy right now.
Only
Alyssa was so undervalued.
She's beating people on this list for her titles. And Amelia didn't once these people got into their prime, Amelia didn't beat many of these people, and she is.
I don't like it. 4 world championships versus a FISO. You're adding 2 in 1 year. Don't work like that for me.
Well, would you say 5 is inappropriate?
Esther might be a little overranked on here. If we're talking about if we're listing off things,
Chris didn't race. Esther might as well not have.
Esther may have been recency bias last year because we were just she has what trifectas. What else does she have?
She had European in a dominant form.
I think she was just dominant last year. Jack was just fell in love with that beast. And Abu Dhabi is it's the greatest thing I've ever seen.
So good.
She beat Lindsay at a beast distance.
Yeah.
How many people have that on their resume? To cap off the year she had, that was basically oh my goodness, Ulrike's year. If she continued on and won the beast this year,
okay,
we would have been like, oh my goodness, she's like the greatest thing we've seen.
But the beast wasn't the world championship last year, anyway.
Talk to Spartan Race Canada about that, Rich.
Head to head, Alyssa is 5-10 against Esther. So Esther typically beats her. And yeah, Alyssa's the only athletes with a 500 record against her are Lindsay, Nicole, Zuzana, and Esther. Those are the 4. Besides a one-off one time when Esther.
So is 5 too high for Alyssa, or does the world championship that should trump the head to head?
She's no worse than 6.
Esther?
Alyssa, no worse than 6, but could be 5.
I think we may have overranked Esther.
So you
Well,
want to
then
keep
let's
Amelia
do the same
4?
thing another year in a row. Let's put Alyssa right up there.
Let's just whoever wins the world championship the next year, you're 5th in the world.
Well, there's just
all
so
time,
many
no matter
women
what.
on this list that never got a Spartan Race World Championship.
But
Sure,
that's a limited quantity of those. It's like the field is so
that's
much better
that's
than when
appropriate to have a limited quantity of
I
world
no
championships.
I understand
Like,
that. Yeah, and
and she beat
we
Nicole
shouldn't
to do
have
it.
12 a year.
no,
What I'm saying
shouldn't
is
have 12 a year.
it's easier to do well in a not as competitive environment earlier.
Debatable.
I think that once we got to 20 on the women's side, 2013 or 2014, all the world championships have been equally hard to win. And I think probably same thing on the men's side. 2013 and beyond, all world championships in my eyes are worth the same. They're that difficult to win. Podiums have come and gone since then, and top 10s have come and gone, but just winning it, I don't think the difficulty has changed in the last 11 years. 2011 and 12,
There's been
we can
some
all
stud.
agree on were not full fields. And they weren't even that. Well, men's side was top heavy, women's wasn't. But 13 on, there's not a single gimme in there.
I'd say 15 on you. That's when you had to deal with all of the above: Lindsay, Nicole, and Susanna. All 3 of them have been racing since then. Good luck. Like, you earned your title if you ended up making the podium since then, even if they were in their early years. All right, let's go Amelia, and then Alyssa, and then Esther.
Like
where are you putting Alyssa?
We're giving we're talking about how much harder it is now when we think about this field. Like, it was just Nicole. Lindsay wasn't there. Esther was not the same level as she has been. Annie has been hurt. Emma Cook-Clark isn't competing that level anymore. All these people that are on the list just did not really participate this year.
I don't think it matters. I think for a podium it matters. For the win, it doesn't. 2012, I watched Cody and Hobie go head to head for almost 3 hours in Killington. And then they did that same exact thing 6 years later in Tahoe against the meat of the sport. Like, as long as you have the one person, the title is equally difficult to do.
But it's hard to compare the one person when that one person has not been if we're talking about Nicole, has not been able to compare against these other women who have been the top in the sport.
Where are you putting
3 or
Alyssa?
4 years before?
Where are you putting her, Rich?
We haven't debated all of this yet. I don't even know. I think that Esther just seems like recency bias, and Alyssa is a lot of that as well. In a year where OCR was not as competitive.
I think Esther and Alyssa certainly have a better resume than Ray and Karen Carlson.
Karen Carlson, that's your call, man.
I know, but she has I still have
this
her.
This will be the highest she ever gets.
I don't know.
She's done in the sport, essentially, right?
How many trifecta wins does Esther have? 2?
That's going to take a second. Oh, overall, yeah, Nicole beat her a couple years.
If I'm going, because if I'm going to do the world championship thing, I think I have to put her in front of Esther.
Now this seems fair.
She has the world title that matters in this list. And really, I guess, just in general.
Is there anyone below her who has a Spartan Race World Championship?
Claude, that's your girl.
Yeah, two-time.
But no. But those were 2012 was one of the years that you mentioned of being maybe not as competitive, maybe doesn't count the same.
Not even close. Right. Her performance was fantastic, but she just didn't have much outside of Spartan Race.
All right, I'm okay with 5. Are you guys okay with 5? I just can't do it with
a double asterisk. Gotta do it one more year. I personally
she might need more than
but
1
that's
year.
fine. But that's fine. She's on the doorstep.
Recency bias.
I think if we took names off of there, right now their resumes would be pretty close. But the titles, if we rank World's Toughest as high as Spartan Race Championships, Amelia would still deserve the top spot. If we count FISO the way we've always counted OCR Worlds, it's a pretty close battle.
But is is World's Toughest Mudder. Like Amelia's not even the number one female. Like, didn't we agree that it was Chris or Rhea at this point?
Well, it's not
At their
about being the
peak.
number one there. It's about the fact that she won 3 of them.
I
She has
get it,
4 titles.
Yeah. I'm
Compare
saying
eras
if
one
we're
more time,
using
Jack.
World's Toughest Mudder as leverage to keep Amelia on there, it's like, and she's not even the best at that.
All right.
I'm just
She
trying
won
to.
it 3 times.
Next year, what I'm going to bring to the table is faceless resume cards
I'll
I
do
would
at
that.
some
love
point,
that.
and we're going to do a tournament with those, and then we're going to see how it stacks up.
In our new format.
There it
In
do
this
is.
it.
format, we can do it.
This vlog can't die.
this is forever. This is
This vlog is going to be
an
an
artifact.
What's our version of Canton?
Oh,
Is it-
log one.
Where would
Is
the
it
wall
Pittsfield? Is
It
it
has to-
Sparta?
I was
Yeah.
going to say it has to be
It's Jacksonville.
Just Florida?
It could be
just
Jacksonville for sure, where the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame is. Yeah, Jacksonville, Pittsfield, maybe Sparta, New Jersey, just for the sake of the name of it.
Yeah. All right, number 7, Chris.
I mean, she didn't do really anything this year, right? OCR
I think there's only one person this year who did anything to move up the list significantly enough to pass her, and that would be Ida.
I'm
Because she's the only one that raced really on the next couple. I'm not saying she did pass her, but I think she's the only candidate, unless Jack's going to reach on a European.
no, I was just going to debate on
Enrique.
Chris, where if we like, she has a fantastic resume. I don't know if it's 7th best realistically all time, because she kind of debuted her first big race on the Spartan scene was 2021 West Virginia, where she took 8th. She's consistently 4-5, couple national series podiums here or there, but realistically, like, she has World's Toughest Mudder as her 2 wins
And OCR
a
Worlds.
3rd place at OCR Worlds 15K in 2021 and 22. She got on the podium there, 2nd place also. Doesn't have the all-time win. Karen Carlson has way more. Claude has 2 Spartan Race World Championships. Ida's resume is pretty difficult to match. Like, it, I think just due to longevity, Chris's career realistically that we're looking at OCR wise is late 2021 to 2023.
If it stops right now, I think she's appropriately positioned compared to her peers. She has the greatest World's Toughest performance ever seen. She has podiums. I think she's appropriately ranked. You could move her 1 or 2 either way, but like her, Corinne, Rhea, Claude, Faye, Alyssa, I think you could say they're all about appropriate. But we weren't intending her career to be done when we put her 7.
I know that should be like, we shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah.
You know, it should be the totality of what the career.
What have you
is.
done
Yeah,
so far?
Maybe we were
I
projecting.
still don't think she's inappropriate here. 7 seems high, but compared to where she is, I don't think it's inappropriate.
When we're looking
So-
at the names below, it's like,
Yeah, if we're looking at head to head, 9 and 8 is Chris's head to head record against Ida. So they should be right next to each other virtually. Chris is 3 and 2 head to head against Rhea, has the distance mark, World's Toughest Mudder. She's 4 and 5 against Annie all races. So those athletes are pretty comparable. She never really ended up racing Karen Carlson. Well, she's 0 and 2 actually, but like during her peak, because Chris kind of started a little bit later, and Karen had a baby and dropped off the sport a little bit at that point.
the greatness that Chris has displayed, I don't think is matched by anyone below.
Rhea's the only other one, and it's
Yes.
only at one specific distance.
Yeah.
And Chris performed. She beat her number at least at that one specific distance.
But just at the how impressive she was. Like, I just don't think anyone could beat her the way she was operating within
I think
that
Rhea is
window.
the only one.
But even
So-
now,
So my argument, they've got a 9 and 8 head to head record in Chris's favor, but Ida has 2 world championship titles. She took down Lindsay in the 3K at OCR Worlds in Stratton. She did win a FISO world championship several minutes ahead of Nicole. She did. And then if we're looking at world championship podiums, Ida has 8, which is tied for 4th most all time, only behind Lindsay, Alyssa, and Nicole. I think she has a strong case moving into the 7th spot.
you think the FISO World Championship is enough to move her
She has six
Like
OCR World
spots? 4
podiums.
spots?
Doesn't matter the venue, whether it's overseas in the U.S. Alyssa, Ida always has to excessive travel, and she still manages to get on the National Series podium. She's kind of the only one besides Zuzana on this list who's really come over to the U.S. and she usually hangs with most of the top athletes that we've seen.
Let's play the game again. Does anyone below her have less more world titles than her? I think we have to count FISO as OCR worlds. I think we have to rank them the same.
What?
So, yeah.
So if anyone below her has an OCR world title, it's the same as a FISO.
Zuzana has 2 world titles total. So
no, below her. Anyone below Chris, do they have more world titles than Ida?
Below Chris, Ulrike has 3 now, and then Rhea has 4.
So she's appropriately positioned coming into this year. So did she move up a spot or 2?
I don't think either of them.
Who, Chris?
Ida.
Oh, Ida.
Yeah, it's like what did Ida?
I don't think we can move anyone down, and we can just move people past them.
My point is the 2 of them should be back-to-back numbers.
Okay.
So I don't think there's separation between the 2 of them. Like Ida, she got 34th at Tough Mudder Alula because she did the hot lap. That was her only OCR event that she did this year. So I don't think she's done enough. Chris kind of was dealing with their injury, hasn't really done OCR either. So they haven't necessarily moved up, but I think the 2 of them should be, one after another.
Wait, did Ida do FISO this year or you counting last year's?
Last year. Belgium.
Oh, you're talking about things that happened last year to move her up from the list.
I think that they should have. No, I think it's just like Alyssa. I think that she was incorrectly ranked by a few places before.
I see.
So I think Ida and Chris should be back to back, regardless of the order that you put them in, because they're actually very comparable.
I don't love it. BK, it's up to you.
My only issue is, did she win a title this year?
No,
neither of them did. But my point is that maybe we had them wrong last year.
We may have, but if it was set in stone and the world ended last year and this was the rankings,
we decided.
Did Rhea or Corinne genuinely lose the slot this year by her not racing?
Nothing happened.
Then basically the rest of the list isn't going to move at that point.
The only someone that's not on the list can enter.
Ulrike might be the only one who gets a bump.
So what we can do is move Chris back to Ida's spot to put them together since they belong holding hands. Or we can put the asterisk of all asterisks next to Ida and say, we may have underranked you, and the very next time you do anything, you shoot up to Chris.
Yeah, I'm just looking at like if
three asterisks.
Karen Carlson's in between them, and she is 7-1 head-to-head against Zuzana in her lifetime. Like that's very impressive. She's 9-7 against Ida. So like she's beaten the athletes separate. I don't know. Chris doesn't have that same record head-to-head.
Great asterisk.
I didn't see it. If she ever races again, yeah.
Cheated a bunch. That will never not tickle me.
So like head to head is not a good measure. You keep want to compare eras. We can't use it for some and not others. I don't like head to head at all. Especially the greatness
of it matters. Everyone's on the same course on the
doesn't.
same day. This isn't like what's your PR because OCR doesn't have that.
There's a level of greatness that Chris has in her specific domain that Ida has not exhibited.
It's hard to really say. Because Chris has a small sample size in her best domain.
Greatness, peak greatness.
Then is Icky Woods a top 5 running back of all time? Single snapshot. Chris has a small snapshot. Had she competed this year, this is a different conversation.
She has a 3-year window, and we penalized Amelia, or we're going to, because she only had a 4-year window.
No, we didn't.
We're going to.
Chris is the best all time at her thing. But is Ida the best short course female athlete ever?
No. When she beat Lindsay, we lost our minds in a 3K. We were like, "This is insane!" Can you believe
and then she beat Nicole by a lot.
well, if that was the case, she would have many more 3K. Like, well, Nicole has to be that, right?
What I'm saying is if those were her only 2, we'd be saying she's the best ever, but she's just had more chances out there. Whereas Chris hasn't had more chances. We can't punish her for not having 8 world's toughest.
for not performing well.
But I also don't think Ida needs to be penalized for taking a while to get to where she sits right now, which is probably the best short course OCR athlete.
I don't like it. And
Rich
I got
log 1.
Well, I would have her at 1 behind Chris.
Should Ida be ahead of Rhea?
We just talked about this. We just talked about nothing happened this year. So how could we move them?
But I'm saying Ida may have been wrong before. That's my point. I think Chris and Ida are like, 7.5. Both of them are virtually tied. I'm fine.
The asterisks exist. Triple asterisks. We have to move on.
Stop doing high rocks and make sure you move up to 7th next year, right?
We have to move on. Okay, Claude, Faye, Alyssa. Okay, only person on here that had a season.
Ricky
is Ricky Evanson.
Rose raced.
Rose did.
She didn't move up, I don't believe.
No,
but she raced.
She raced, right? Yeah. Nothing else.
Ricky needs to enter the chat.
So let's just run it down quick. It's Claude Godbot. Godboo. Is 11, Faye Stenning 12, Alyssa Hawley 13, Miriam Boisse is 14th, Rose Wetzel 15th, Annie Doobie 16th, Emma Cook Clark 17th, and Rebecca Hammond in 18th.
Just real quick on Rose, she ran 4 races this year, got 2nd in Big Bear, 4th at the Seattle North American Regional Championship, 2nd in the OCR Worlds 3K, and 3rd in the 15K. Is that enough to move her up? Or
no?
It's a good year, but if she took home like a world title, I think that might have been it. But I feel like she's kind of appropriately ranked.
I guess we have to start stacking resume stuff. We'd have to list those OCR World Championship ones, but they're on a completely different tier.
Yeah,
now than what they were. They're like
a podium there has now fallen below FISO.
Yes,
and I don't think it's that close.
The only other name that I think could have some. Could be on the list is Yanka Popova. She did win the Ultra World Championship back in the day, came over to North America, won the national series, and she, I don't even know.
What does that mean?
Well, the 3K series. But what I was going to say is she has something like 20 all-time national series podiums over in Europe. Like she's put together a heck of a career realistically and has a world title.
I don't know why the bottom half of this list hits me so differently this year than last year, but Becca Hammond now just looks like homerism to me.
Big time.
Like if she were in Europe, she'd already be off this list.
What does she have? She has a podium at Tahoe.
And
no, she got she was like 6 seconds off of winning OCR Worlds behind Nicole one time. Rebecca Hammond,
she had 1 year, career, right? 1.5 years.
2018 and 19, and she ended up getting 2nd at Tahoe and 4th in Tahoe the 2 years, and she got 2nd place OCR Worlds 3K. Yeah, she shined really brightly, but it was a very short career, and she did get 2, 3, 4 in her 3 races for OCR Worlds over in London, and 2nd and 4th at Tahoe those 2 years.
She had like 1 more year, and she's undisputed for top 15.
This is Emma Cook Clark too.
Annie, Emma, and Becca, unfortunately, are all in there. Like if Annie raced this year, she might be up to like 6.
Right.
And because she didn't, suddenly she's in danger of, if we never see Annie again, which there's no guarantees of anything in the sporting world. We want Annie back in a bad way. But if she never races again, Emma, and Becca are off this list in a year.
Well, didn't Annie end up getting 2nd or winning Big Bear this year? And like she got 2nd place in Utah 2021. She had a 4-year run at least at that point, and she got a podium. She got 3 separate 3rd places at OCR Worlds through the years.
Well, we're not degrading what she's done.
Yeah.
It's just that if we don't see her anymore, she fits the Emma Becca snapshot of a career, which is if this woman just sticks around, she's going to be on the Mount Rushmore within a few more years. But then we didn't get those years. Like Becca was as good of a start to the sport of anyone outside of Lindsay Webster. Emma as well. Annie, like these 3 were uniquely positioned to be the heir apparent. They just haven't been able to get back. Or
If if you lined everyone up on this list, those three are not taking 16, 17, and 18, but their career duration just wasn't long enough to
The
justify
totality.
moving them up. Yeah.
They
That's-
almost don't have a career. They had a season or two where, like, I don't
Yeah.
think we can count Annie multiples. Like, she had what, 2 seasons,
two
No,
Spartan podiums
and then
21,
a few,
2, 3, and 4. She had,
in good years.
yeah, great years, but like one race per year after that, I don't think counts as.
So does the totality of Ulrike and Janka's career surpass this just because there's so much more volume in their accomplishments?
I'm happy giving them both double asterisks and saying your body of work is bigger, but you haven't yet matched. Although Ulrike probably has.
Ulrike has 2
yeah.
FISOs, is it right? Oh, stupid multiple championships in a year. She has a FISO World Championship. Is that better than a Spartan podium?
It's probably even.
yeah. It's pretty comparable. Like the win versus a podium and the other. Yeah.
And then, so with that and all the other regional things she's accomplished, because she has a pretty long list of accomplishments, right?
Yeah.
Not that
Ulrike.
much. And yes, and then I guess we have to add the ultra one.
Yeah. The only downside with her is she's had so many like DNFs, so her ups and downs are crazy. I know that doesn't necessarily speak volume towards her main like accomplishment.
Eli Manning.
But yeah, that's kind of, it's like she was great on that day many times.
Is that enough to bump her to 15, to 16? I'm sorry, or 15? Like, what about Rose? I mean, Rose has the totality, but not the highest piece. Does this pass her? Does this make
They're
put
no
Ulrike past
higher
Rose?
in podiums than her at Worlds, right?
Who?
And
Rose?
she's got the body of work to match them. I
Who we
think
talking
they
about?
get asterisks.
You want to keep him in 19?
I'm fine keeping Rose or Ulrike right around Rose and Miriam. Which order specifically? Like, I would say Rose has had like the better peak, but or the longer career. Ulrike had the better peak. It's,
If we go blind resume and say ultra championship, a 50K championship, short course championship, 14K championship, all the European stuff versus Rose, who's basically just been a staple in like what, like
Series.
2 to
national series race.
5.
She just shows up to all of them.
Yeah. Like a blind resume, I think we'd probably pick Ulrike here.
Yeah, if we look at every single athlete on the list, the only one who does not have a 500 record head-to-head against Rose is actually Rhea. Every single other athlete on this list has beaten her more times than Rose has beaten
But
them.
she's also been like, she's later in her career, and
I
She
know.
keeps showing up.
she races a ton.
But she also was a veteran by the time those others were rookies.
She's a tough one because she was a mainstay of the sport. She's another one you don't tell the
She got
history
a little
of the sport without
Amelia.
her.
Yeah, she
Yeah,
got like
definitely.
the Amelia Boone piece to her that like is worth something when we're talking about all timers.
And there was a time when she could race any single person in the sport at almost any distance. She rarely beat them, but she was in every race. And that mattered at the time when all the races were televised. So it's really hard to distinguish.
Right.
Does someone surpass her in greatest of all time ranking? I don't know. I
Because
feel
it's all-
like
because on
every single
paper.
person, 16 through 20, if they put on one more year of simply like doing their
Show
average
up.
year, they move past people.
Okay.
Like
so
if
you
Annie
wanna-
Doobie races one more year, she's probably 6.
Yeah.
right.
If Emma Cook Clark comes back, she's probably a 6.
Yeah.
Do you want to leave Ulrike and Janka 1920 as to newbies on the list, or I mean, it seems like Ulrike should be higher.
She has 2 titles.
Yeah.
I don't know
it's
how
all
much
in
the
1 year.
Ultra title counts, but FISO counts at least as much as OCR Worlds, which is more than any woman above her has up until Claude.
I feel like we're not going to get to rank the championships today. It's just not going to happen. But I feel like there should be 1 championship, and then the rest count as regional championships. So, like,
I think there's
Ulrike
room for
has
2.
I guess it depends on the distance.
I think there's Spartan World Championships, and whatever the other best world
Short
championship
course,
is.
mandatory obstacle completion.
Whatever is short course
Yeah.
3K. It was short course, mandatory. Yeah.
Not that the
Which-
pass matters the most, but Spartan Race Worlds and OCR Worlds were equally difficult to win for a while.
Yeah.
So we can replace that with FISO. So that gives Elrique one of the two.
And you're counting World's Toughest for Chris.
Yeah.
Equal to those. So is there a third?
That's like a completely different thing.
Either way, I think there's room for 2 full strength world championships in the sport of OCR.
Fine.
And I think it's currently Spartan and FISO.
And Elrique won one. And that's more than any of these women, like up until Ida, up until Claude.
I think we can put her to 16 based on that. And I think strength of entire resume may keep those next couple ahead of her for another year or two, unless she wins another championship, in which case she skyrockets again.
Ulrika had her first European OCR championship in 2019 in the 3K. So she does have a lengthy career. She does date pre-COVID, and she has won a European title 2023 in the 12K. She has a couple of those FISO 3 and 13, get whatever short and long standard course that they have. She won the Morzine Ultra. She has wins. Rose has podiums.
Mm-hmm.
I would
That's
put
a
her
compelling argument.
I would put her one ahead of Rose at this point.
Well, then she's ahead of Miriam.
Yeah, maybe put her 14 then.
Then she's ahead of Alyssa.
That's what I'm saying.
And Faye.
Championships. We got to look all the way up to Claude.
What do we have a lifetime, or do we have a championship podium on Faye, Alyssa, Miriam, and Rose compared to her?
Podium, Alyssa
Champion.
and Faye both. Oh, championship.
Yeah, championship
I don't think so.
podiums on those 4 would probably be the deciding factor. We have length of career and podiums, and we have world championships. The only the tiebreaker might be other championship performances.
Yeah. Claude was a lock for winning virtually everything. I know that she had less competition, but she had like something like
3 years,
90% win rate during those 3 years. And she ended up doing Battle Frog. The reason her career cut short was because she tore her ACL during a race, and then we just never saw her again. But I would say she was more dominant than Ulrika was, just because Ulrika has just such peaks and valleys with some of those DNFs.
Now, I don't want to be disrespectful to a GOAT, but once the running started, she started falling off in the sport.
Fair.
She was a mountain power hiker
beast.
descender
Yeah.
before anyone else knew how to do that. But as soon as the sport got flatter, that was kind of it, right?
She didn't translate her cross country skiing like Zuzana did into speed.
No.
Where are we at?
It's either 12 or 15. I think those are the 2 spots. It's like Faye and Alyssa were so important and just good for those several years, but I think that Ulrika has those titles and podiums that the 2 of them are missing, and the diversity, like not just Spartan only. Because when did we see Faye? We saw her once at OCR World. She basically bailed on it. Alyssa, I don't know if we ever saw her outside of Spartan.
BK, your call.
I don't care if it's 15 or 18. I'd put her at one of the 2 and give her the asterisks.
Okay.
But if I saw her,
because she's not American.
but she is literally 1 season from being right above or below Claude.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Like just a season of having a pulse at races.
Yanka, do we want to leave it 20? Just
Yeah.
because she has not really done the championship.
She's had a great
the totality of her career.
Yeah, she
really
has a good counting stats, but I don't think she hasn't done enough at this point.
Okay, cool. We did it. Women's list complete.
This is the least good I've ever felt at the end of one of these lists.
What? Why?
It sucks aging. Sucks seeing people on here that haven't raced in 6 years and be like, can we even ever accurately judge them again?
Seriously, and there's
I
a
don't
lot
like
of
it.
these,
Yeah.
a lot of these athletes that might be the case, right? Even the younger athletes, like, will we see Chris again? Like, is that ever like, is that going to happen? Like, I'm gonna have to take away the asterisks.
Like Zuzana made life really easy for us. She came back and proved like I'm top 2 to 3 arguably in the world right
Yeah.
now. What would I have done the
still
last
went down.
decade, guys? Come on. Like, oh, great. You've reminded us. You're great. But the other people have no reason or really like they have no pressure to do that. They're not obligated to. It just helps when we see them again and realize how great they were.
Yeah.
Do we need to shoot to next week for the dudes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna
It
say
took
this.
an hour.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. You want
Nice job. Look at us.
championships?
We're out here debating.
Yeah.
Well, I think we kind of got to the championships a little bit. Two
Yeah.
to three world championships is enough, so we have to eliminate all the rest. So
here's what I would like to do. I would like to crowdsource like $250,000
mhm.
Yeah.
and give a free entry to everyone who's ever made a national series or world podium to one event next year that's just like the GOAT Roundup. And we just give everyone like a 9-month head start. This is where we're going to redo our power rankings, like show up, improve whether you are a product of your era or if you can remotely hang with these current people. And if you can remotely hang, we're going to weight that like 10x of what we need to do. I just want to see everyone here back on the race course the way we saw Susanna, the way we still see Rose.
So Alula.
That was a VJ goal, wasn't it, for Seattle
Yeah,
this year?
Seattle.
And then they
And
threw
they're
up
like, no more 3K.
They
Like,
threw
you
up a,
can't get in.
they threw up a
and there's
gate
no
with
money.
barbed wire. Yeah, and we're like, I don't even know if I'm not gonna go there. Yeah,
But if we just gave it like a guaranteed $1,000 for showing up, everyone on this list, and then it scales from there, like, let's do it.
Where would you host it?
Cloverfield.
I don't care.
No, well,
Because to
Europe
be
or-
on this
Europe
list,
or
you have to be able
US?
to race everywhere.
Okay.
It could be Abu Dhabi. It shouldn't be, but I don't care where it is.
Killington is the
Not
answer.
Florida.
Killington has to be.
Yeah,
East
let's see all
Coast,
this list on Killington.
East Coast, sea level, mountainous.
It allows old man strength to still matter.
Throw in some weird obstacles, heavy carries.
What era style race are you doing? You doing a 2013, 2018, 2024?
2.5 to 3 hours.
Okay.
So early 15, 16, where it was still a
Okay.
little wonky, but
Peak
like
Spartan.
yeah.
All right. Get
With
some nasty
modern obstacles.
carries and yeah. Okay. Seems fair.
Little
If
foreshadow for
anybody
the
has $250,000 they want to loan us, we'll make this
No, we
happen.
just need 250,000 of our closest friends to all give $1,000.
One-
Or I'll give
$1.
$1.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
$1,000.
1,000 each.
A little foreshadow for next week. We have the men's list that we need to debate, which I think is going to take some time since
Oof, there
how
are
long
some
it took.
people moving up. Look at these. Some of these are very incorrectly ranked.
Well, you're going to be like, well, with the race that happened last weekend.
I'm looking
that
at
was
number
really
17.
important.
Where's he going?
Yeah, but outside of him, there might not be movement.
Heineck?
I think
Heineck
in
has
here,
to.
this is going to matter. Yeah.
Maybe.
I just think this is a little bit. I think we talked about Kempson last year.
He's turning into
kind of like a, like
We don't have
16 through
Stein.
19 of the women's side.
We don't
where
have
they-
Stein on here. We don't have Jesse De Hair, Luca Pascolderung. Like, we're missing some people.
Oh my goodness, this is not good.
Igor.
all of these championships that just rolled out. BK, it's
Oh,
not good for the
man.
18th best when you only have like one
Hey,
to go after.
How about we do top 20 and then ... until brackets? But we
there's
don't have to.
there's no like it wasn't 20 on the women's until just now.
Yeah,
There's no
true.
more. We can have a top.
The
50.
list ends where I end.
Yeah.
BK's
You're on the
staying
list.
this
Bracket will never. I don't care if this thing goes to 150. It's
I don't think people can fall.
List.
I don't think people can fall off a list. I don't think we've ever taken anybody off. I don't think we should.
No. Well, maybe number 20.
His
Maybe
name's
20.
still not spelled right, and that's enough for me.
That makes sense.
Yeah, he's got one too many vowels in that, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, this is too much. I can't keep him. I can't keep track of all the vowels in the name.
Yeah.
All right, I think we did it. You all feel good?
I feel dirty.
Yeah, I feel like some people are gonna be like, "Man, I got wronged," but that's why we debate. It's
You
Ritz's
guys
list.
like-
It's vlog 1. We can't touch the document. Ritz is in charge.
Secure
There's one
list.
way to fix this. If you've been wronged, show up next year. You have 15 championship opportunities.
Easy.
Snag a podium or a win,
Get a couple,
and you're back up.
Yeah.
or shoot DMs to Jack Bauer. Let him know how unhappy you are.
Just do it.
He will entertain.
I got to
you.
hear it. I'll mention it.
He will entertain.
Yeah.
Cool. What do we got on TRP?
We have a series going on Training Tuesday kicking off the year. How we think about blank. So our opinion on, so this week's is speed development. Like, what is the role of sprinting and running fast for a runner? How do you actually get faster?
I like it.
Not science necessarily, not manuscript, just our feelings about how we think about things. We're not going to tell you how to do it. We're going to tell you how to think about doing it for yourself.
Just talking about your feelings over there on TRP, the modern male.
Just have our Kleenex box ready here.
The running show for the modern male, TRP. That's what we always called it there.
Testosterone replacement podcast.
TRP.
That's a great one. All right, that's what we're wrapping it up. Actually, over on RMR, we talked about footwear. Kent was like, "Hey, you want to talk about shoes?" I was like, "With you? Not really."
You know why, right?
Why?
Matt Mason messaged us, Kent and I, this week in the new Adidas 2025 lineup, and Kent's an Adidas stan. So he got all fired up about shoes.
Someone sent me a Running Warehouse gift card. Was either one of you?
I did.
I wouldn't do that.
You did?
I did. Yeah.
Running Warehouse?
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
I did not know where that came from.
Check the email. Yeah.
I thought you just got me Corvus. You took
no,
double gift card
right there. Yeah,
right there. Hell yeah.
No, they don't always attach. You have to go out of your way to get your name attached to it.
I almost had to
filled in like 4 forms, wrote like a couple sentences on there, and
they only give you like 100 characters.
Yeah.
It's like a tweet.
Well, and I'll check my spam folder then.
Thank you, Jack. So I need a new. I'm like, oh, I got this money. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I just copped another pair of Wave Rebellion. You think so? I just got another pair of 2s.
You did.
I copped the blue pair because I saw them all. I was like, I just need to get these. I need to guarantee. I only have a couple years left, so I need to make sure I have the right shoes for the rest of my years. You know.
Yeah, I think the 3
Ultra Vanish Carbon. Give them a shot.
The 3 have better foam, higher stack, and the pivot point is like 15% further back in the shoe.
Back in the shoes. That doesn't do me that much. That's not.
Yeah, you might not need that.
Yeah, that's my language. That's for you. That's for you.
Guys,
Kent's the same way. He doesn't like the 2s.
Guys, got a shoe question for you. So Nick Riker, he posted, a few days ago. He was like, I got some 2025 goals. Want to go sub 16. There's a downhill like 240-foot drop 5K point to point in New Hampshire. What's he wearing? Should he go and do it? Like, I think
point to point 240
240-foot
drop. It's like a 1.5% the whole time.
Now, this is something that not everyone thinks about, but I, of course, have. The steeper the drop, the less drop you want in your shoe. Higher drop exaggerates the angle on your legs of an already steep. So I would be in very close to 0 drop super shoe.
Okay.
The Vanish R's?
I would never.
Oh, come on. That's about as low as you can go.
That is a 0 drop super shoe.
Unless they have like negative drop.
Yeah, but I don't know if they get a scoop to their plate. I'd still want some. I think I'd maybe like the A6 Metaspeed Sky or something low. It could be the Vanish.
Some of that protection would be nice because I'm thinking if you're talking like, we can't be talking about Takumi Sens out here.
I don't think you can wear Vaporfly that steep down. I don't think you want something that tips you. I think you want more of a cushion and launch. Downhill is my person. You're not going to struggle with turnover. It's going to be beating up your legs and
surviving. To the finish line.
I'd be low drop. Maybe Alpha. Alpha's only like 4, right?
BK Rebellion Pro 2. They're only a 4 millimeter drop, dude.
They do say that, don't they?
Little like finagle there.
I'd be high stack, low drop.
He has a pair of the Metaspeeds.
Those are a stiff one though. He's got the older ones. Those are firm.
Yeah, he ended up running like 55 something for his downhill 10 mile. I'm like, I think you've got this sub 16. Like it's during summer break, so
he can run sub 16
on a track. Probably. Yeah.
Where's it? Salem, dude? Where's it at?
Where I don't even remember. Yeah.
What's the average grade? Is that like 5%?
No, it's like 1.5%. I did it maybe like 10 years ago.
Then.
Yeah,
you could probably get away with anything with one.
There was one year I did it 2 times. One was the first year after college when I took a strike on running because I was so burnt out, and I ran like a 16:30 something, and I got like 60th place. There were like 50 guys under 15. It was so fast. So if Nick can't break it on this course, it's bad.
Out after Big Bear, I don't know if you remember this, when Kirk didn't have a great race and he wanted to punish himself. Like
He did
2
like a
days later,
9:22 mile or something. Or
no, he ran a
9
downhill 2 mile. He was
Yeah.
running reps, and on his last rep, he ran like 9:29 or 9:34 downhill in speed goats. Because it was so steep. He lost like in 2 miles, he lost like 200 or 300 feet.
Mhm.
But
I did-
9:30 in speed goats downhill.
I did something like that at Palmerton. I ran like 4:0.
Did you really?
But it was,
Really?
yeah, but it was at Palmerton. You know, it was like a double black diamond. I was
On the
just like,
course?
yes.
Like on the grass?
Rich on trails doing a 4. Wow.
There was like, it was like fire roads, but it was like steep ass fire roads, you know? Like
That's
it's
your
on-
thing though. Like fire
That
roads,
hurts.
I can hit
when,
that hard.
if you don't have a tripping hazard, Rich Ryan is a dangerous person on those
My
trails.
feet were burning. You ever get that when you go so
Oh,
hard
yeah.
down and
Oh,
your
yeah.
feet start
Yeah.
burning?
That was me
Yeah,
chasing Rylan.
Yeah, I
in
was
Kelowna.
4:0 something. I was like, that's a PR, baby.
That's flying.
Sweet.
Kirk and I ran a down the backside, like an access road, but it was asphalt down the backside of a hill, a ski hill one time. And I don't know what pace. It was like 3:30 pace for like a quarter mile or so. And it was just like
It's 52.
brutal impact on my body.
Your central nervous system was not ready for that.
Yeah, terrible. So anyway, I support Riker's pursuit to never run anything other than downhill races.
Keep it illegitimate, baby.
I heard they're coming out with a downhill Deca downhill this year.
Might as
So,
well.
Watch out. Watch
Might as
out.
well.
Yeah.
Push the sled just 100 meters downhill.
Wait till you see what I do with
Thank-
my dumbbells.
All right, squad. That'll wrap us up. Thanks for joining us today. We'll get to the dudes later. We'll rank out these the world championships at some point. But yeah, thanks for hanging. Talk to you soon.